The Children's Center of Medina County has been designed and furnished to look like any typical home. It's very important that the child feels comfortable enough to share their story in a setting that doesn't intimidate them. As you can see, even the clinical rooms don't look like a bright interrogation room that could scare a child. While these children are being interviewed, other support resources can remain unseen so as not to impede the progress of the interview. Providing this sense of security allows the child to begin the healing process while being able to tell their story in a comfortable environment. I'm here with Allison Allen. She's a board member for the Children's Center of Medina, and I wanted to ask her a few questions today. So thank you so much today for joining me.
Thanks, Sam.
And as a board member, one of the questions I'd like to ask is, what compelled you to become a board member here at the Children's Center of Medina?
Several years ago, I came to a pinwheel walk, and I heard a statistic that was pretty earth-shattering to me. That statistic was that in the United States, every year, 1 in 10 children before their 18th birthday will be sexually abused. And when I think about how that impacts our community, and I think about elementary schools in Medina County with 30 students in a classroom, that's 3 students in every classroom in every elementary school in Medina. And the image of those children was very impactful. And I started to think about my own children.
Sure. So, and you have 3 school-age children, you said, right?
I do. So I have 3 school-age children. I'm in the classroom often, at the soccer field, in the neighborhood, at the grocery store, just like all of you. And to think about how one victim impacts each of those places around our community, it's extremely far-reaching. And I was in search of how I could help.
Sure. So here at the Children's Center of Medina County, we're in the building. You've had a walking tour, and you'll see a little bit more what they do. But talking to the board members, the director, and those type of people, you get to find out a little bit more about behind the scenes. So, Allison, I really appreciate your time. I love what you do here. I hate that we have to do it, but because we have these things that happen in our own backyard, it's good to be aware, and it's good that people will reach out and take care of those things. So, thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to Terry. Terry Grice is the Montville Township Police Chief, and he's a board member here at the Children's Center of Medina. So,
hey,
Terry,
good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, as I was talking to Rhonda, child sexual abuse is one of those cases that in this community and in any community, we feel like it doesn't happen. Now, unfortunately, in Medina County, it does. And last year in 2017, the Medina County Children's Advocacy Center had 103 sexual abuse cases. Child sexual abuse is one of the cases that community members don't like to believe it occurs in their area. And it certainly happens in Medina County. Last year alone, we had 103 cases. And we have to do a better job communicating with family members, community members, to realize that this resource is here. The Children's Center is the first stop to allow healing to begin. And then the importance of our criminal justice team meeting here as a team to eliminate the number of interviews that the child has to go through to talk about this horrific crime. That in and of itself allows the healing process to begin much faster.
Right, we're not inundating the child with the same interview over and over again for different agencies, correct?
Correct. Everyone's in one room, is able to view the interview and work together as a collaborative team.
So Terry, tell me about that kind of two-pronged approach, the prosecution side versus the healing side.
We're trying to build a strong prosecution case while allowing the child to heal at the same time, not to have the child continually try to describe the horrific crime that they endured.
Right. So I think it's a great process for what they have to endure. To do it with the care and approach that you guys take here is a wonderful thing, that the child doesn't have to continue to reevaluate exactly what happened. So
absolutely. It's important for the child and for their child's family too.
So now I'm standing here with Shannon Collins. Shannon Collins is a case manager here at the Children's Center of Medina. So Shannon, I want to say thank you very much, first of all, for taking time out of your day to talk to us and let us know a little bit about what it is you do here and what is the importance of this kind of a facility.
Okay. The importance of the Children's Center is that we bring families here in a neutral location that's very child-friendly. The families walk in the door and immediately feel comfortable with the way way we look. We're a house. We're not a big industrial building or a government building,
Right.
anything like that. We're able to sit with the families and talk to them through the process. Everybody that's here during the case is here to work for the family and support them and make sure that we get an end result and help for them to move forward.
Sure. I will say, coming into the facility, it's very much like a house. There's a kitchen you can see from the walkthrough. There's a kitchen. There's a dining room. It's not a clinical setting. It's very very welcoming, and I think that would have to play a lot into how breaking that barrier down to where you can talk to the child has got to be a lot easier, and the family as well.
Yes, it's the worst day possibly of their life.
Sure.
So we want to make sure that while they're here, they feel the support of everyone here, and that when they leave here, that we're working hard to make sure everything's going to be okay.
Absolutely, and just from the standpoint, I've been here a few times. I've had a tour of the facility, and I know that you guys do a wonderful job of making people feel, like you said, it may be the worst day that they've ever encountered, but coming in here, it's not the bright lights, it's not a police station, it's not some place that's very intimidating, and I think that it very much can be comforting in a situation where we're not expected to be very comfortable.
Absolutely. I can say with most certainty that everybody that comes here and leaves here they leave here feeling good. The kids want to come back,
Right.
Which is something we don't want. But the fact that they've had a good experience here and are no longer, they're feeling trusted and believed and supported.
Right. So, and the things that you do here are what is able to help with recovery down the road. Correct.
Correct. Absolutely.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, I really appreciate what you do here. I appreciate your time here, and I appreciate you spending our afternoon with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep. All right. So now I'm with Jen Graham. Jen Graham is the Capital Campaign Chair here for the Children's Center of Medina, and you're a former.
I'm the former board president of the Children's Center. That was a long time ago.
So you've been involved for a good many years.
Yes, I have been.
Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the money? Where does it go? Where does it come from? And what is it used for?
Okay. Well, most of the money comes from donors. We have had generous donors over the year, and we're very hopeful that with this project, with the move and the capital campaign, that those donors will come with us to this new location.
Right. Very important. Talk to us about the dollars. Talk to us about the numbers.
The numbers for the capital campaign?
Yes.
Okay. For the capital campaign, we have a goal of raising $575,000 for the new building, and that's all inclusive for everything that we'll need. And that is going to a building that will have 2 separate floors. We'll have the Child Advocacy Center on one floor, and we will have all of the other support services on a lower floor with 2 separate entrances and ample parking. So we'll be able to serve more children.
Right, which is important. We've already heard the numbers. We know what's coming into Medina County and our local region as far as the need. So being able to serve that need is always going to be important.
Absolutely. To meet the growing community need, the Children's Center Board has purchased a centrally located Medina County property and will break ground on the new facility this summer. The family-friendly building will feature 2 floors. The main floor will house the Child Advocacy Center, and all other support services will be located on the lower floor. Each floor will have a separate entrance, and the new facility will have ample parking. The all-inclusive project cost is $575,000, and a capital campaign committee has been formed with a goal of retiring the entire construction debt. Meeting the campaign goal will allow the center to operate without a mortgage and eliminate current rent expense. Expense savings will be dedicated to providing additional services to the children we serve.
Now we have Rhonda Wergler. Rhonda is the executive director of the Children's Center of Medina. So Rhonda, pleasure to meet you.
Yes.
And why don't you tell me about your role here and anything else that you feel absolutely should be out in the public eye about this process?
Well, as Sam said, thank you for the opportunity to talk today. I am the executive director here of the Children's Center of Medina County. I've been executive director for about 8 years, and the center has been in existence. We became operational in 2007. So we have a history of about 10 years in Medina County. I can say that I know you've seen the tour, you've heard other members of our team speak today, that it's vital that we move to a larger facility. We are averaging 10, 11 kids a month coming through for sex abuse cases, as where our previous average was 5 or 6 kids a month. So there is definitely a need for that separation of space and more space. Throughout the years, I've seen the growth here, the need as we get out into the community and let everybody know that we're here, so that, you know, victims feel comfortable calling us and getting this, you know, the resources they need to help them through whatever they're going through.
Absolutely, and I've said it to some of the other members. It's not fun to have to do these kind of things or have to have a facility like this, but the importance is
Oh, it's so important for any child to come in to have a place where they can come and feel safe. We're child friendly. They know they're believed when they're here, when they tell their story. It's being able to tell your story is the first step in that healing process. So to have a place in Medina County where they come to one location, they get the interview, they get a full head to toe medical physical examination, and when they leave here, they have referrals for mental health, and they know that they're going to be helped. They know that they're safe. They know that their bodies are okay. And they know that if they need to come back or anything else, we'll be here for them for anything, because we do follow up with each family, making sure that whatever that child needs, you know, this is all about the child, and making sure that as they go through this, this is about them. So, and having a place where all the disciplines, all the organizations that work with that child during this crisis that they're going through can come here and help them, it is, you can't put a price tag on that. So it's just an amazing resource for our community. If you're a family out there, and if you ever, and God forbid that anybody ever has to go through this, but if you did, to be able to stay in your own community, have a place where a child only has to tell their story once, get the medical examination at the same location, and get direction on what's going to happen when they leave here, that doesn't happen in any other organization. Normally, you go to different organizations, and before we were here, that's exactly what would happen. So the child would be interviewed multiple times. The medical would have to take place in Akron, and many families, it's just, you put on top of that stress and the crisis on them having to go to multiple locations, there's a breakdown in the system, and justice just doesn't happen.
right, and that's really an important factor too. We're here. We know that we want to help the child to heal, but we also want to be able to prosecute the people that have caused the harm. So, like you said, if there's a stressful situation, they can't even get to the reporting procedures and the healing procedures, then those predators are able to continue on.
Absolutely. So by working together as a team with these families and these children, we can pull in the information we need to prosecute and get justice and make sure that child's safe moving forward. Since we've opened our doors, we've seen 900 kids come through for sex abuse. We don't see those kids come back through. Whatever intervention we're doing here, education piece, if you bring abuse into the light, it will stop. So, and that's really the key, being able to provide a place where children can talk and talk about freely what has occurred to them, so that we can stop it.
Absolutely. So, Rhonda, I appreciate all your efforts. It's an amazing thing that you do here in our own community, and I know that when people know more about it, they really can understand how much work goes into this and what a process you've kind of created here. So,
Well,
thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm very excited to be back at the Children's Center working on a major project, working on a capital campaign for a new building. Really interested to hear some of the things that have been going on at the center and what has really driven the need.
The need is we meet. We're really good at what we do here. We make it happen, but the numbers are rising. So there are times when we have a foster visit in here, a foster visit in there, and maybe a sex abuse case that we're working on in the kitchen. We like to keep people anonymous, some anonymity in there. So we definitely need a bigger space so we can kind of keep separation so families aren't running into each other.
It has to be hard to deal with when you have cases that are coming in. What's that feel like when a child can, if you're having to deal with that and you're having to juggle multiple things? I know when we started, we were so small and we didn't have as many cases.
Well, our main goal here is just to make sure that family's comfortable, and if it starts off in a way that might compromise their anonymity, then it does put a lot of stress on the center here. We've got maybe the director, Rhonda, in the kitchen with the family, me in here with the family, and another program support person in another room. So we make it work, but it's really tough on us.
I would say that we've had situations in the past where we've had all rooms full, even downstairs in our meeting room, and we've had a sex abuse case come in and the child knows one of the foster care kids, which is, it's devastating because the last thing you want to do as a child is go back to school, to the same school that child goes to, and they know that you weren't here for foster care, you're here for what the other thing that we do. So the new location, having that separation of space is so vital for these families so that they, you know, can heal and have the space that they need to do that healing in.
One of the things that was most appealing to me, Shannon, I think you took me on the tour when I first came through, was it really does feel like a home. And when my family came through, they were comfortable here. And if we were ever in a situation like that, you guys create this environment where there's no fear. It's warm and it's cozy, and that whole physical presence will be preserved and probably even improved at the new facility.
Are there things that you're looking forward to? What are some of the things that really thrilling about the new build?
That's probably the most important, is being able to have the family that we're working with right then and then, you know, just them in that room, and we can all focus on that. I also am looking forward to our partners with law enforcement and all that, to maybe being able to have their own entrance into the building, where they can just kind of just come in. So the family doesn't have to see all that goes on behind the scenes. So it'll be nice to have that too.
Ron and Shannon, obviously with the interviews, maybe explain a little bit more about that process, how we try to eliminate the repeated interviews for the child to help begin that healing process a little sooner.
So the first step here at the Children's Center is that interview process. Every child comes in for an interview, and the idea is we have a center, a child advocacy center, where we have an interview room we have a trained forensic interviewer that performs these interviews and sits with the child to talk about why they're not safe. At the same time, we're recording that interview, and there's another room where it can be viewed by law enforcement. The great thing about the new building is it'll all be on the same floor, same level here. It's on 2 different levels. And we're not handicap accessible if you're in a wheelchair to get downstairs to watch that, which we have that issue right now with our prosecutor's office. So it's so important that they're here viewing that interview as it's happening, because
it's a team approach.
It's a team approach. They can. So the idea is one interview. About 3/4 of the way through that interview, the forensic interviewer will come upstairs and say, "Hey," or downstairs and say, "Hey, are there any other questions?" And then, so we get all the questions answered in that first interview. We record it, we make a copy of it, we send it with the prosecutor or law enforcement or the social worker, and they use that. That can be used as evidence for the case. But the idea is they're not interviewed again.
Right.
So,
which obviously helps build a strong case for prosecution. Not that eliminates the pain the child suffered, but at least it brings that suspect to justice for the heinous crime that they potentially committed.
well, and I don't think a lot of people realize too, 40% of the kids we see are 6 and younger for sex abuse cases. So if you're, imagine being a 3, 4, 5-year-old, and if you're getting more than one interview and you're being asked that question more than once, that child's going to give a different answer. And if you're a defense attorney, you're going to love that different answer, because then that just throws that case out. So if we can do one interview, and because we know kids, when they're that little, the first time they give you that information, they're not lying. I mean, the stuff they talk about, you know they're not lying. So if we can get that in one take, and then the prosecutor has what they need to prosecute. So it's really important, that one interview.
And the other thing we talked about yesterday was obviously the opiate epidemic and how that's increased your, not responsibilities, but I guess the impact on the center itself with all the foster visitations and everything else.
Yeah, I would say so with foster care visits, at one time we were doing maybe 250 a year. Last year we did about 600 foster care visits. The amount of kids in foster care in Medina County used to average about 35 kids in any given day. Now it's well over 100. I think 128 kids last year through the foster care system. So once a family, those are neglect cases. Those are the cases we're seeing for our foster care visits. But it also puts those kids at risk for other abuses, physical abuse and sexual abuse, because those kids are in vulnerable situations and not being protected by a parent. So.
I also think the center gives a message to the whole community that we're out there trying to protect our most innocent victims, which unfortunately is our children. I think this atmosphere lets people know that there's a group of people out there willing to help.
I would agree. I'm constantly out there preaching and talking about keeping kids safe.
So how did the board come to the decision to build the new facility? How did they come to that? What was driving that?
I think Shannon, obviously from her day-to-day experience and the staff, we work very closely with the staff as a board, and over the years, as we've seen growth in sex abuse cases and the need for foster visits, the facilities were growing too small. One victim and the impact one victim has on the community in our schools, in our churches, on the soccer fields, our neighborhoods. It's a community problem and it required a community solution. And as a board, we decided that the facility was the most effective solution for the time.